The U.S. is expected to announce a new aid package for Ukraine, and Russian Navy ships visit China. All of that and more today, July 7th, 2023. Good morning, early birds. I'm Simone Perez, and this is the Early Bird Brief, produced by Defense News and Military Times. First up, the Biden administration has decided to provide cluster munitions to Ukraine. A formal announcement that the Pentagon will send thousands as part of the latest military aid package for the war effort against Russia is expected today. That's according to people familiar with the decision. It comes despite concerns that the controversial bombs can cause civilian casualties. The Pentagon will provide munitions that have a reduced, quote, dud rate. That means there will be far fewer unexploded rounds that can result in the unintended deaths of civilians. Officials who spoke to the Associated Press ahead of the announcement said the cluster munitions will be part of a new military assistance to Ukraine worth around $800 million. Cluster bombs are weapons that open in the air that release submunitions or bomblets. Those bomblets are dispersed over a large area to attack multiple targets at once. Ukrainian officials have asked for the weapons to aid their effort in the ongoing counteroffensive. Russian forces are reportedly already using cluster munitions on the battlefield. According to the International Committee of the Red Cross, some cluster munitions leave behind bomblets that have a high rate of failure to explode when they hit the ground. In some cases, 40% of bomblets don't explode. U.S. officials said yesterday that the rate of unexploded ordnances for the munitions that will go to Ukraine is less than 3%. Cluster bombs can be fired by artillery that the U.S. has provided to Ukraine, and the Pentagon has a large stockpile of them. Here's why it matters. More than 120 countries joined a convention banning the use of cluster bombs. The United States, Russia, and Ukraine are among the countries that have not signed on. It is not clear how America's NATO allies would view the U.S. providing cluster bombs to Ukraine, and whether that issue might actually prove divisive for their largely united support of Kyiv. More than two-thirds of the 30 countries in the alliance are signatories of that 2010 Convention on Cluster Munitions. Another important story, a pair of Russian ships are visiting China as the countries reaffirm their military ties amid Russia's war in Ukraine. Cold War-era frigates arrived Wednesday in China's largest city and biggest port, Shanghai, for a 7-day visit. State television reported that following the port call, the ships will conduct joint drills with their Chinese counterparts. China's defense minister and the head of Russia's Navy met this week also on Monday. That was the first formal military talks between the friendly neighbors since the Russian mercenary group Wagner's short-lived mutiny. Here's why it matters. The military cooperation embodies the Chinese and Russian governments' informal alliance. They also align their foreign policies and positions at the United Nations, as Beijing has consistently provided diplomatic cover to Moscow. China has said it is neutral in the Ukraine war, but it has stood solidly behind Russia, accusing the U.S. and NATO of provoking Moscow and of fueling the bloodshed by helping arm Ukraine. This isn't the first time the country's fleets have held exercises and joint maneuvers together since Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year. In February, Russia and China joined in with the South African Navy for drills off the African coast. In other news, it's getting a little easier to navigate the federal government's job portal if you're in the national security and STEM sectors. That's thanks to some changes made by the White House Office of Personnel Management, or more commonly known as OPM. For more on this, Federal Times reporter Molly Weisner joins the episode today. So, Molly, why did OPM create these separate portals for these types of jobs in particular?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons. Anybody who has tried to get a career in the federal government is familiar with USA Jobs. It's been around for some time, and it's really the main point of entry to do really any kind of job in federal government, whether that's an internship, full-time, part-time. So OPM and really all agencies over the last few years have realized that there are some serious talent deficits for certain kinds of occupations in government. So in recent years, some of those on the high-risk list include acquisition, human resources specialists, and cyber and IT folk. And so USA Jobs is a place where every single federal opportunity is posted, but for folks who are looking to work in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, or those who want to do national security work, these distinct portals give them a one-stop shop to find those opportunities instead of having to sift through thousands and thousands of vacancies just to find the type of job that you're actually equipped to do. So it's just to make the lives of candidates easier.
I mean, I speak for myself and a number of recent college grads when you're like, wonder how you get a job with the federal government. USA Jobs is that place. And so
Exactly.
It's been the premier job board for longer than we've been alive. I mean, Molly and I are, sorry guys, Molly and I are both under 25 years old. Has it kept up with the changing nature of work? Is it actually connecting possible candidates to the jobs they're best suited for?
You're absolutely right that USA Jobs is usually where you start. I mean, if you just Google jobs in the federal government, chances are USA Jobs is going to be right at the top. So it is the biggest funnel and perhaps really the first touch that anybody has with trying to get a job in the government. But the nature of work has changed. I mean, obviously, we have remote work now. That's a thing that's relatively new. And certainly, jobs in AI, cybersecurity, that didn't exist, 40, 50 years ago. So USA Jobs has actually gone through multiple redesigns and iterations, more than 25 years old. So it really has become a platform that has had to get more user-friendly. There are more than 1,100 job postings per day on average. So imagine just trying to keep up as an applicant with what's new, what's opening, what's closing. So you're seeing different things now. You're seeing, for one, earlier this year, OPM created a whole other portal just for interns so that interns don't have to sift through, everything that's out there. And again, now we're seeing things for national security, for folks who have a clearance and maybe want to see how they can use it. And of course, STEM careers and IT. So it sort of depends on who you ask. Some people love USA Jobs. Some people really hate it. But there's no denying that it's a tool that you're going to come across at some point in your journey to becoming a public servant.
Thanks, Molly. For more conversations like that one, please like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Also on the radar for today, in case you missed it, the Air Force said Russian fighter jets flew dangerously close to several U.S. drone aircraft over Syria on Wednesday. The jets reportedly set off flares and forced the MQ-9 Reapers to take evasive maneuvers. Lieutenant General Alex Grinkowicz, the commander of the 9th Air Force in the Middle East, said 3 of the U.S. drones were operating over Syria on a mission against the Islamic State group when 3 of the Russian aircraft, quote, began harassing the drones. Grinkowicz said that one of the Russian pilots moved their aircraft in front of a drone and engaged the Russian Su-35's afterburner, which greatly increased its speed and its air pressure. This is just the most recent incident in the skies between the U.S. and Russia that adds to an already tense relationship. You might remember the confrontation in March when an American intelligence drone crashed after colliding with a Russian fighter over the Black Sea. In the incident this week, the Air Force did not provide additional details about the drone operation, and it's not clear where over Syria the incidents took place. And now here are some other stories we're hearing chirps about. The leader of Belarus said the Wagner chief who staged a mutiny is in Russia, which raises questions about the Kremlin's strategy. The claim could not be independently verified, and the Kremlin refused to comment on the leader's whereabouts. NBC News is reporting that a group of former senior U.S. national security officials held secret talks with prominent Russians believed to be close to the Kremlin, with the aim of laying groundwork for potential negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. The Guardian is reporting that the French Navy is investigating claims that masked off-duty Marines tackled rioters during national unrest last week. And BBC is reporting that the UK Ministry of Defense confirmed for the first time that UK Special Forces are at the center of an Afghanistan war crimes inquiry. And on this day in history, in 1976, women enrolled into the United States Military Academy at West Point for the first time in history. That's it for us this morning. To get more top stories and breaking news, go to defensenews.com/EBB to subscribe to the Early Bird Brief newsletter. Please give us a like, rating, and a comment wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at @defense_news and @Military Times. The Early Bird Brief is produced by me, Simone Z. Perez. Today's episode features stories by the Associated Press and Molly Weisner. Our editor-in-chief is Mike Gruss. Have a great day.